Alright, so this is gonna be part 3 to what if Asta was a Norse god. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Put it on God, he the one to put me on top. Can't be put in a box, gotta move on the ops. Never got the move on the drop. Niggas tryna move on the sky and we move that deep. Tryna run down shit steep, gotta act the fool.
Alright, so in our last part, we just got done with the attack on Saucy Village. So we're going to do the dungeon arc in this part. So it would be a few days after Saucy Village, and this is where Yami would talk to both Asta and Noelle, basically saying that the Wizard King has ordered them to go check out the new dungeon that has appeared so that they could raid it before the Diamond Kingdom does. I believe it was the Diamond Kingdom. So with that being said, they're kind of ordered to go, so they bring Luck there. They ask Finral if they could get a ride since he has spatial magic. He says, I'll get you as close as you can, since I believe in canon, he was able to actually take him there. So they would have gotten there pretty easily, and they would start exploring the kind of dungeon. So they would walk down that kind of pathway they do. Eventually they would find a brick in the wall that was out of place, and this would open up the basic area for the dungeon. There they would see a bunch of mana flowing everywhere, just how they do in canon, and Luck is very excited for this. So they walk around and they find out there's traps everywhere. Because Luck is kind of reckless, I say, he basically activates a bunch of traps, which end up activating on both Noelle and Asta would have to dodge out of the way so he wouldn't get hurt. Eventually, this is where Luck would find someone else's mana, someone with very large amounts of it, and he goes in that direction to go fight it. So Asta and Noelle are alone, with only Nero with them. So they continue going down the path they would normally go, so that they could go and find the main part of the dungeon, or the treasure room, I guess. So they go and try to find it. Eventually, they would get to a spot where Noelle would activate a trap, and this would be the giant kind of plant monster. So Asta, he'd be able to basically take it out pretty easily since it is a very large target, as well as it being not that far away, and he has range. So he'd be able to easily take it out. He would use a dark arrow instead of a ice one because it would just be easier to use. In that kind of time period, they would have went to the black market and they would have went with Vanessa to go and get some items to basically help with both Noelle and Asta controlling the magic. So you see this in the show where Noelle basically gets a wand and Asta in this one would get a necklace similar to the one Noelle was gonna get, but she didn't like it since she thought it looked ugly. So in this case, we're actually gonna give it to Asta since he doesn't really care about fashion, so he would get it anyways. So that's really why he would get it. So after that, Asta would have, you know, better control of his magic than he would normally have, right? Because of that magic item. So he would shoot the plant monster and this would actually blow up, causing Noelle to fall, and Asta would be able to catch her, and she would get embarrassed by this, and by the time he would let her go, this is where the rest of the Golden Dawn would come. This would include Yuno, Klaus, and Mimosa. So this is where Mimosa and Noelle meet. Mimosa is glad to see Noelle, while Noelle is kind of has mixed feelings about it because, well, Mimosa was always praised as a kid while Noelle was not. So they have that kind of reunion, and this is where Asta basically asks, you know, hey, Yuno, why are you here? And this is where Klaus would basically interrupt the two. Or I guess first Yuno would say that we're on a mission from the Wizard King, and Asta would say the same thing. And this is where Klaus would interject and basically say, like, why is a black bull here? It doesn't make sense. You know, we could have done this by ourselves. I'm not sure why the Wizard King even told you to come. And, well, this is where Asta would kind of get mad and basically say that, well, we got 2 stars earlier since we started. And Klaus would accuse him of lying. And this is where Klaus would be like, well, that's obviously a lie. Asta would be like, well, no, it's not. You know, 4 eyes. We got a golden star. And now we're at negative, what was it, like 30? And Klaus would basically say, you call that an accomplishment? And Yuno would just kind of not say anything because he doesn't really care. And that's kind of his personality. Mimosa would start talk to Noelle, talking about how it was nice to meet her again since, you know, they used to be childhood friends, even though they're cousins, you know what I mean? So after that, this is where Klaus would basically tell Mimosa to use her magic to find the treasure room. Then they have this kind of race with the Black Bulls since Klaus wants to prove how much superior they are to that of Asta. So that's what would happen. Asta would go and try to race him just how he does in canon, but he doesn't have any transportation magic, so they're at a big loss. Nero basically shows them a kind of shortcut, just how they do in the anime, and they go in that direction. Eventually, they notice that they feel someone's, magic or mana and that's actually Luck, and he's facing against the Smoke general from the Diamond Kingdom. So they decide to go there and save their teammates. This is where they have that 3v3 or 3v1 fights against the General Mage. So at first, he doesn't want to fight with everyone else. He wants to prove to his mom that he can always win. And Asta says, you know what, I'm going to let you do what you want to do, but I'm also going to do what I want to do, which is to help my friends. So Luck basically realizes that he doesn't have to fight alone, that he could actually fight with his friends. So that's what he does. So they come up with this plan after the Smoke Mage basically surrounded them within smoke, so that it makes them faster and kind of clouds their normal vision but not really mana sensing. So Asta actually activates a spell, which is a combination of two spells that I saw in the comments, both of them basically being blizzards. So how the spell works, it's going to be called Dark Winter Magic Flash Blizzard, and it's kind of be a combination of both ideas, where it basically makes it where it's hard for them to see both with mana and their visual sights, and it's gonna basically make people not really have too much. They would lose a little bit of control over the magic, but not too much. So that's basically what it does. As this is done, the Smoke Mage wouldn't be able to really sense them too well, and this would give them a perfect opportunity for both Luck and Asta to basically shoot him down. They would use Luck to aid him because Luck projectiles are faster, so they would basically make him move. Asta would shoot a lower arrow, and basically being a dark arrow, and he would shoot this. And what would happen is have Luck guide the mage into the arrow, since they're a lot faster and he doesn't want to get hit by Luck. So he moves in a position where he's actually able to get hit by the slower moving arrow. So this would cause the mage to get knocked out, just how he does in canon. And they would continue to the dungeon, to the treasure room. And there they would see that Mars, the Diamond Kingdom other general that has mineral magic, I think, attacking the Golden Dawn. They would see that Mimosa's basically down and not really able to fight, and she's healing herself, while Klaus is on the verge of being defeated, as well as Yuno, or Yuno's helping him. So Asta would come in and shoot a couple arrows, missing a few, while also hitting two clones with it, because the darkness arrows are kind of AoE. Like I said in the kind of second one, or no, I believe it was in the first one I explained how it worked. So he would hit a couple of those mineral clones and basically take them out like that. So Asta would keep on doing this, and this would get Mars very angry and talking about how they're weak and that they should be basically smashed by him because he's been taught to think that way about weak people. So he gets into that kind of giant kind of suit of minerals to go and attack Asta. So Asta tries to do a few arrows, and it doesn't really work too well. So they're thinking of different ways what they could do and how they could actually do this. So what they do is they do a combination spell. They use Asta's bow as a base, and they use both Klaus's steel magic in combination with Luck's lightning and Yuno's wind to make this kind of ballista, just how they do during the kind of tournament arc. It has so many different elements within it, or a bunch of different affinities that just shoots through and basically breaks the suit that Mars had. So after this, Klaus would use a binding spell on Mars, and they would continue with throughout the dungeon, right? So what they would do at this point, since they don't have anti-magic, they would have to blast through it. They wait a bit since they used a couple of mana, at least Klaus, and mostly just Klaus, I guess. So they would wait for a bit for the mana to recharge, and they would shoot another one of those ballista shots. This would break down the door. Asta, in this one, I don't think I'm gonna give him a spirit, because he is he's divine in his own right, and he doesn't really need it at this point. So instead, Asta actually finds something different, and I will explain the significance of it in a bit. So Asta actually finds a arrow. So what's so important about this arrow? So basically what it is, this arrow is actually made out of mistletoe. And you might be thinking to yourself, like, mistletoe? Yeah, it's like the same stuff you hang during like Christmas time. And you might be thinking to yourself, like, why that? It seems pretty weak. It's actually because of the story of Hod, why he's actually written down about. So like I said, Asta in this what if, he's a Norse god, but he's based off the god Hod, Hod, H-O-D. And what I mean by that is that the story of Hod basically goes like this. He had a brother named Balder, I believe, and his mother, I believe, was Freya, and she basically saw this vision that Hod was going to kill her son, Balder, and basically she made this pact with every living thing, and said, don't kill my son, which they agreed to. And the only thing that she actually forgot to tell not to kill her son was actually mistletoe. So Loki tricks Hod into shooting an arrow. Well, basically what was happening was Balder was at a party, and to amuse the other gods, they would just throw stuff at his invincible body because it would just bounce off. And Hod was actually tricked by Loki into shooting an arrow made of mistletoe, and this actually pierces and kills Balder. So that's the real significance of the mistletoe arrow. So as this is going down and Asta actually takes the arrow, he would be able to put it into his grimoire. It's something similar to his swords where it's a physical object, but he's able to put it into his grimoire. Like a couple other spells, like I believe even Yami can do that with his sword. After that's done, this is the part where Mars would actually awaken after a bit because he was bound, but he was still able to use flame recovery magic on himself. At this point, would have still gotten the wind spirit, and everything would still go as in canon. So Noel would still get hurt pretty badly, and Asta would be there to basically, he would get angry at this because they attacked someone of his team. Mars would use his crystal magic to basically trap the other three, that being Klaus, Luck, and Yuno. So Asta would try to basically shoot a couple arrows at Mars, not really wanting to hurt anyone. He actually does shoot the ice arrows because the ice arrows go faster and they're a little bit harder to control, but they don't have that kind of AoE attacks that the black ones do, or the dark ones. So that's really why he does it, and he doesn't want to really hurt anyone there. This does chip away at the kind of mineral, but it doesn't do enough damage, or at least not enough fast enough, I guess. So Mars actually retaliates and does he starts shooting the daggers. At first, the first few would be easy for Asta to dodge, but then the couple others would be, harder to, he would get, cut a few times on the sides because he wouldn't be able to really dodge them too well. And there's so many that it's very hard to dodge in the first place. So he would summon his hunting pack so that he could go rush Mars at this point, which a few of them do successfully go and attack Mars, biting off some of the minerals, but a few of them actually get taken out using the daggers. So at this point, what Asta would do is that he wants to get close so that he could go and shoot that new arrow he got. As this is going down, he summons his mana devouring dire wolf, which is a lot bigger than his normal wolves, and he would ride on top of that to try to go towards Mars, because he doesn't know how easy or how hard it is to control this arrow since he's never used it. So he would be riding on top of the wolf to go and get Mars. He would get close enough, and this is where he would shoot the kind of arrow. This arrow would go into the mineral kind of thing, get stuck a bit, and actually go further, because it's just something that you wouldn't expect, right? It's mistletoe. So the mistletoe actually just basically ricochets within the mineral itself and basically destroying it. This would cause Mars to get out of his suit, and after that, this is where Asta would basically shoot an ice arrow at Mars to basically use the cold of the ice to basically take out the fire spell that he has that's basically healing him. So after that, he would basically get knocked out because he wouldn't be healed anymore, and the rest of the group would break free out of their kind of crystal. And this is where Mimosa would be done basically healing Noel. She would still be injured at the point that she really couldn't fight, but Asta would basically pass out from the pain and from so many injuries, right? So eventually he would wake up outside the dungeon, and this is where Klaus would actually thank him for what he did and basically say he was wrong about commoners. So yeah. So with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah.